everyone was giving me the same feedback. Like, dude, these things are amazing. Like, I had one dude who literally refused to give me the prototypes back. He's like, I cannot go back to riding my old pedals after trying these things. How much do you want for them? Give me a number. I'm like, $400. He's like, sold. And freaking gave me $400 cash.
Your very first sale was like your second or third pair of prototypes.
Yeah. Like if somebody's willing to they refuse to give me the prototypes back because they don't want to go back, I'm like, I'm onto something here.
Welcome to Henderson HQ. This is the podcast where you get all the stories behind the businesses that make our community tick. Don't forget to subscribe to our weekly newsletter. Hey, Scott Groves with the Henderson HQ podcast. On today's podcast, if you sell a physical product or you're in e-commerce or you have to build relationships to make your business successful, which I think pretty much all business owners have to, you have to watch the entire episode today with Bike James, my friend who owns a company called Pedaling Innovations. He makes a physical product, which is a brand new take on pedals for all kinds of bikes. And even if you're not in the cycling world, if that doesn't sound interesting to you, I promise you, James is going to give you some business tips on how to grow an email list, how to be in relationship with your clients, and how to run a successful business, more so than just the metrics of what's my click rate, what's my enter rate, what's my per ticket spend. It just really great lessons for any business owners, especially people that are thinking of starting something new. So check out my friend Bike James and his story about Catalyst pedals. Hey, ladies and gentlemen, it's Scott Groves here with the Henderson HQ podcast, talking to business owners like you. And today we're actually interviewing a friend of mine, James Wilson, who's the owner of a company called Pedaling Innovations, which you're going to figure out what that is. It's a pretty wild journey, and I can't believe he makes a living selling these pedals right here, which if you're not watching the video, you're listening, are giant. And we'll hear why those are. But another business owner out here out of Henderson, he does e-commerce, which is a little different than the other business owners we've interviewed. We're very intimately familiar with each other because he's a black belt and kicks my ass at jiu-jitsu every day. And so I like literally drink his sweat. And there's a certain bond when you're rolling on the ground with other men that you might have with other people. So I don't know, this podcast might end up being not safe for work or not safe for the children, but we'll figure it out. Our kids also went to school together for a while. And yeah, just excited to have you on, man. So tell us, what is a pedaling innovation?
Pedaling innovation. Well, it is an outside the box, which is a term that gets used a little bit to the point that it kind of doesn't mean anything, but it's just my different take based on my background on the problem of how to properly support your foot on the bike.
On a mountain bike, a street bike, all bikes?
Any bike, yeah. I mean, my background is in mountain biking, and so a lot of my customers come from mountain biking, but really we've got people that use them on road bikes, on BMX, on, trikes. I mean, if your bike has a pedal, then this is the best way to support your foot on the bike.
Okay, when I first saw this, I was like, this thing is giant. I'm going to destroy my shin on this thing. And then you brought my son and I a pair, and it really does make a difference. So was this like science first, and then you created a product? Or did you create a product and be like, I think this might work. Let's try it out.
Well, yeah. It was kind of the product came after the science. So like, if we're going like in the way back machine, right? When I first started mountain biking back in 2000, it's gotten better. But back then, like you were told, man, you need to get on clipless pedals as quickly as possible. The pedals that like your shoe actually like clicks into and attaches to.
I hate those things.
Yeah, those things are terrible. Everybody hates them, but they think they're the only ones, so they don't say anything about it. So it's kind of like an emperor's new clothes sort of problem. But like once one person goes like, man, I don't really like these things, all of a sudden all these other people are like, man, I don't like mine either. I thought I was the only one. But it's
because I had clips on my pedals when I was doing a lot of road biking, and they're terrifying, right? You have to make an emergency stop, and I know you get used to it, and you just pivot your foot and slide out. It's super easy. But like in an emergency, you like pivot out, you slide out. You've got this little wedge on your foot, so when you try to plant on the ground like you normally do, you slide, you eat shit. I've seen so many adults like in slow formation, in fast formation, in emergency, they either can't clip out and they just keel over, or they clip out, they try to quickly put their foot on the ground and they almost tear their hamstring like going out. So do they use clipped in pedals in mountain biking also?
Oh yeah.
That seems more terrifying.
Oh, it's totally terrifying. Yeah, no, but that's again, you gotta, man, it's wild. Like when you start peeling back the layers of all of this, it's crazy. Like, so yeah, like you're told that like these clipless pedals are going to give you like 30% more efficiency, and like they're the only way to like pedal and only way to use like all the muscles in your leg and all this stuff. And so, I first started riding, I thought like, oh yeah, okay, like I'll try that. So, I came up riding a BMX bike. I didn't race or anything like that, but I think every kid our generation had a fucking bike to cruise around the neighborhood and stuff. And so I knew I like flat pedals, and so I got just a regular pair of flats to start out in. And I really enjoyed it, had fun, just really enjoying mountain biking. But, they're like, oh, you need to get on clipless as soon as you can. So I'd gotten a pair of clipless, and what I would do is I would practice riding around the street on them. And man, I spent hours practicing clipping in and out and like trying to get, good at that. And I had the proverbial fall over to stop sign moment, right? Like I'm out, I was actually with Kiele when we were dating, and we're like out riding, and we come to a stop sign, and like I knew that like I needed to get unclipped, and I was still fumbling with it, and I fell over at the stop sign, and I think there was somebody that drove by and laughed at me or something. And I was like, man, fuck this shit. And I'm having way more fun on my flat pedals than I am these clipless pedals. And so like I started riding in Santa Barbara, California, which has some pretty like technical, gnarly trails. And I was like, man, if that had happened to me on the trail, I would have fucking died. Like I would have been really, really hurt. And so I was like, I don't want to deal with this. Like I'm having fun on my flat pedals. I had a buddy who rode, and he was a really good rider, and he was on flat. So I was like, I know I can get at least as good as him, right? Like I'm not as good as him. So it's not the pedals. Like I know I can like raise my level up to at least where he's at. And so I'm just going to use flat pedals until I feel like my pedals are what are holding me back. Like I'm riding with someone, I'm like, dude, we're the same skill and fitness level, but you're kicking my ass because you got clipless and I don't. And so,
wait, why do they call them clipless if they clip in?
Right. So this is, again, bike history 101. Remember the toe clips, the little like cages, and then you would actually like have a strap that you would strap. So those are called toe clips.
Oh.
And so the clip,
I call those cages.
Oh, right. Yeah. Cages, whatever. But like technically those are toe clips. Oh. And so when the clipless pedals came out, that's why they're called clipless, because they don't have a toe clip.
Oh my goodness.
And so, so they're like,
this really is like the emperor has no clothes. Cause like, even we were saying that, I was like, is James wrong? Because you do clip into the pedals. Why are they called clipless?
Yeah. So now there's actually like a move to like start calling them like clip in pedals or clip pedals. Cause it is confusing if you don't understand the history of them. Then it does sound like, well, why are you calling them clipless pedals? But, but that's, so I started doing that, and then, but man, I just kept getting better and better. I never really got to the point where I felt like my pedals were holding me back. And then in that time, I got into, I started MTB Strength Training Systems, which was my mountain bike strength training company.
And you used to have that?
Oh yeah. Yeah. We still got that. BikeJames.com.
BikeJames.com.
Check that out.
Okay.
And so, I started that back in 2005. So like, basically that was like, I started mountain biking. I knew from my history as a track athlete that like strength and conditioning was one of the fastest ways and best ways to like improve your performance. And so I started researching like strength and conditioning for mountain biking. And dude, I couldn't find anything, like literally nothing. And like the little bit that I could find was like just bodybuilding BS in disguise. It was like 3 sets of 10 on the leg press and leg curl, leg extension. I'm like, man, I know that's not how athletes train. I know how athletes train, and that ain't it. And so I'm like, well, I'm going to like just apply what I know, and I was a, professional fitness coach at the time. I'd worked for the International Sports Sciences Association, like one of the major certification groups out there. So like I had like a really like strong education and good background in strength training stuff. And so like I started applying that to mountain biking and the little bit I knew about it at the time. And, I started seeing better results. I had a couple riding buddies who were working out with me, and they're like, they're seeing good results. And so I like had this idea that I'm like, man, I wonder if anybody else would be interested in what I'm doing. And so I started my first website in 2005, and I still don't know where those first email subscribers came from. Somehow people found me and started signing up for my email list. And I was like, oh shit. So I like started sending out weekly newsletters, which I've pretty much done almost every week since, man.
For 19 years, you've been
for
on
20 years, man.
Mountain bike strength training.
Yeah. That's there's a lot of people in the mountain bike industry like know me as Bike James. That's like I call him my Tyler Durden, right? He's this personality that like he's not really me, but he's kind of this embodiment of me. Some parts are exaggerated and stuff, but so I'd started MTB Strength Training Systems. And through that, I started working with some professional mountain bikers. And at one point I was training the Yeti World Cup team, like Yeti Cycles in Colorado. They had a World Cup team and I got hooked up with them. And a lot of those guys, pretty much all of them, rode clipless pedals. And so I thought, well, if I'm training riders that ride clipless pedals and clipless pedals give you an advantage, how do they give you, like, what's happening there? Because I wanted to be able to create training programs that would maybe enhance what clipless pedals are doing for you. So I started like researching what is the actual science behind clipless pedals. And people act like you can just throw a stick and hit 5 studies that prove beyond a shadow of a doubt that clipless pedals are better than flats and they do all this stuff for you. Dude, I couldn't find anything. There was no science to support clipless pedals actually being better than flat pedals.
So I remember when I was a kid in the 90s, it was like RockShox was putting a ton of money behind sponsored riders. Like by 2005, 2008, whatever, there's a lot of money in mountain biking. And you're saying even at that point, nobody had sat down and put somebody on like a stationary cycle to prove
No, they did.
that the clipless pedals could actually create more torque or power. Okay.
The studies didn't show what they wanted them to show. And so that's where things got even weirder for me, right? So like I started like I should did some out to my email list. I'm like, hey, if any of you guys know some science behind this stuff, I'm trying to do some research. Dude, people start sending me studies that actually like disproved a lot of the theories behind clipless pedals. Because one of the main things they tell you with clipless pedals is that because your foot's attached to the pedal, you can pull up on the backstroke. And that's what gives you all the advantages because you're able to like, create tension through the whole pedal stroke.
Like push and pull, not just push.
And pull, right. Yeah.
Okay.
So like that's what they tell you to do is you want to push with your front foot and your back foot. You want to be actively pulling up. And that's going to like let you create tension throughout the whole pedal stroke. Plus you're going to use all of your muscles. Like you're able to, use your hamstring to curl the pedal up. And so it's just, this is the theory, right? And everybody's seen these little charts that have these little color coding for like when the muscles are engaged around the pedal stroke. And I found out like, dude, that's never been proven. Like that's all just a theory. Like when you actually put like an EMG on a rider and you look at how they're creating power during their pedal stroke, it looks nothing like that stupid little colorful chart that they're always using.
Is that because humans can't figure out how to use like opposing muscle groups at the same time? Like I'm just thinking about it. If I was mentally trying to like pull with my left hamstring as I'm pushing down with my right quad, I don't think I could change that fast enough.
No, you're absolutely right. It's like partially, it's that we are designed to move a certain way. We come, wired to move in a certain way and create movement a certain way. And when you try to change that, even if theoretically it would be better, like trying to rewrite how the human body is wired to move never works out.
Right.
Like it's just that this is how it moves. And so like your leg is designed. It's like if you're running, walking, pedaling a bike, whatever it is, it's designed to create the power on the downstroke. And then your leg just kind of like passively returns into position for the next like downstrokes. Like when you're running, you're not thinking about trying to pull your leg up, right? It just happens. Right. And so like that's what they found. Like when they would study, just like normal pedal stroke, like pedal like you want, then they would study, have one group like push down as hard as it could, really emphasize the downstroke. Then they would have a group really emphasize pulling up on the backstroke. Then they would have a group like trying to spin circles and like, you're trying to like create this even tension. And what they found was that the pulling up on the backstroke and the circles created less power and burned more energy. So it was less efficient than simply letting riders just pedal like they want to.
Yeah.
And then emphasizing the downstroke because that's how we're designed to create movement.
Yeah. Because nobody chooses to run a marathon backwards.
No.
Like you're always going to have more power going forward as a human being.
Yeah. That's how we're designed. It's like our power comes in pushing and then pulling tends to be a reset, right? Like if you're punching, it's a push and then it just resets. The pull is not as strong as your push. And that's just the way that we're designed to create movement.
This reminds me of something I read in the book, Shoe Dog, the Phil Knight story of like the founding of Nike, how there was a push, I think in the 60s, 70s, whenever Nike was getting big, to like go more padding, more foam, more support because it'll make you more spongy and it'll propel you forward. And then the track athletes were like, sorry, Phil, like the more minimalist the shoe, the faster my time because when my feet are more attached to the ground, I can create more force. So like modern track shoes, I mean, it's a very, very thin amount of material between you and your foot because humans are designed pretty uniquely to be able to run fast.
Well, that's the idea behind the whole barefoot training, barefoot running idea, right? And that was something else that I had gotten into over the years because when I ran track, they tried to put me in orthotics, and I'm running all these like padded track shoes, and my knees are killing me, and so I started to realize like, oh, it was like the shoes, like your foot is designed to move a certain way, and then if you fuck with that, you do that at your own peril. Like you are going to screw up the kinetic chain, and you're going to cause problems in the foot, and so in the foot and further up into the leg because the rest of the body's trying to compensate for that. And so same idea, right? Like you want to, have you want to look like, how does a human body naturally move? And then how do we apply that to the bike? Like that was always been my thought process behind training programs, but that's not how your average guy in the cycling industry looks at it. He comes up and he's like, if I was going to design a machine to pedal this bike, right? If I'm going to design a robot to pedal a bike, yeah, like having it push and pull at the exact same time would probably be more powerful and a better way to do it. But that's, we're not robots, right? Like, so there's a difference between like, thinking about how would I design something to do this? Now let's have the human body do that versus how does the human body naturally move? Now let's apply that to the bike. And so that was like, like I said, like my thought process. And so that was, as I started to get into the science behind it, that's what was coming out is like, holy shit. Like, and that's the crazy thing. Like the bike industry knows that these studies exist. Actually, a lot of them don't because they don't tell them what they want to hear.
Right.
And so they get ignored. So there is science behind the pedal stroke. There is science behind how to, the best way to pedal your bike, but it gets ignored because it doesn't back up what they're trying to sell you with these, clipless pedals.
Well, also what do these retail for on your website?
$159.
Okay, so these are $159. I know you get a pair of clips and then you got to adjust the clips. Then you got to pay for somebody to put the right millimeter of change between the clips.
Yeah.
And then you got to constantly be replacing shoes that have clips on them. Bike companies get to make $1,000 or $2,000 or $10,000 off of riders off the life of their career, where you're like, these things will last forever. It's $200.
Yeah.
So it's like there's a real financial disincentive for cycling companies to tell people like, no, you can do just as well on a slightly bigger pedal.
Yeah, no, there's a lot of money behind clipless pedals. And then you wonder, you go to a website or you go to a magazine and you're like, man, why are they running articles promoting clipless pedals? And then you look on the side and you see an advertisement from Shimano or, one of these companies. You're like, oh, these guys are paying their bills. Like they're not going to run articles. They're not going to put things out there that go against what these guys want them to say. See, if you find the same thing in the fitness industry, right? Like, supplements pay for these magazines and websites. So why do you think they're always running things promoting supplements that a lot of them do not have science behind them to support them? Like you find that in every industry, but
who knew I was going to find a new conspiracy this morning of big mountain biking?
Dude, there is. It is. I would call it the clipless pedal mafia. It would piss people off. I'm like, this is the truth the clipless pedal mafia doesn't want you to hear. And so yeah, like that was like my, like the kind of my, that red pill moment, whatever the fuck you want to call it.
Yeah, aha moment.
I'm like, holy crap, man. Like we're being lied to. Not only are clipless pedals not better for you, but like the pedal stroke and the way they're telling you to pedal is actually less powerful and less efficient. Like the way that I describe it, like remember when riding bikes as a kid? Did you ever have any problem with your pedal stroke?
No,
none. It wasn't until you became an adult and somebody came along and said, hey, the thing you did as a kid and you had no problem with? You were doing it all wrong, buddy. Like, let me tell you the right way to do this thing. It's like, dude, adults can fuck up anything. Right. So like you look at a kid and they take like a midfoot position. They tend to like center their foot over the axle and they're just like standing up and hammering.
Yeah.
And they're fine. And then we get to be an adult and they're like, oh, you want to like be pushing through the ball of your foot and you want to have your foot attached to the pedal and you want to pull up on the backstroke. And like, it's like, man, no, that's actually like as far removed from the way that the foot actually works as you can get.
Yeah.
And so, so that was, like I said, like the beginning of, me getting into more research and finding more science and writing a bunch of articles. So eventually I came out with I call it the Flat Pedal Revolution Manifesto. It's a free PDF download. You can Google it, still find it. But man, it changed the discussion in the mountain biking industry around flat pedals. Now all of a sudden people had ammunition to counter a lot of what the clipless pedal people were telling them. And so now when you start mountain biking, you're told start on flats. You're fine on flats. Like eventually if you there's still this thing that like serious mountain bikers wear clipless pedals, but even that is like, you see like really good riders who are on flats. And so, I like to think that I had at least a small part in changing that conversation. But yeah, there was another guy I was talking to that was explaining that how we're misunderstanding how to position our foot on the pedal, because we're told that like, when you jump or, run, you push through the ball of your foot. And so that's how you create the most power. And so you want to push through the ball of your foot on your pedal. And he was pointing out that like, why do you never push through the ball of your foot in the gym? Like we're in the gym, you're told to like drive through the whole foot. Like if your heel comes off the ground, they'll like, no, drive through your heel. Keep your foot up.
I mean, like if you're deadlifting or squatting and your heels come off the ground, you're prone for knee injuries and all kinds of stuff.
Exactly. Because what it is like if your foot comes off what it's in contact with, then you do push through the ball of the foot. So if you're running or jumping or something like that, because your foot is breaking contact with what it's on, you do end by pushing through the ball of the foot. But if your foot does not come off what it's on, if it stays in contact the whole time, then you want to have the whole foot supported. It'd be driving through the whole foot. So that's why you look at surfers, right? Whole foot on the board. Skateboarders, whole foot on the board. Skiers, their whole foot is supported by the ski, right? Like you look at any other sport where they are staying in contact with what they're on and they have their whole foot supported. But for some reason, the mountain biking industry got it in its head that we're different and that we want to like push through the ball of the foot. And so that was between like the science behind like, the flat pedal, and then this insight into like, like what's called the midfoot position, where you center you want to center your arch over the axle instead of centering the ball of the foot over the axle. And so that creates a bunch of problems when you center, like if you're an engineer, right? And someone comes to you and says, hey, I've got a platform that's centered on a rotating axis and I need to apply energy into this rotating platform. Is it going to be better for me to have one pressure point where I'm trying to line it up perfectly in the center? And if it gets offline at all, it's going to start creating this like tipping effect. And then I'm going to have to figure out some way to secure it so it doesn't like come off. Or do I want like two pressure points, one on each end, where I'm able to apply even pressure into the platform that way, right? Like that's a no-brainer. Like you don't even have to be an engineer to understand like why the two pressure points on either end would be a superior way to do it. But when you are putting the ball of your foot and you're leaving your heel, like the back end of your arch, hanging in space, that's basically what you're doing. You're using a single pressure point to put pressure into this rotating platform, and it creates all sorts of problems, right? Because that's why like when you watch riders, their toes are pointed down, because as they're pushing in, the energy is unbalanced. And so it's creating this forward tip to the pedal. Well, how do you keep your foot from flying off when it's tipping forward? You attach your foot to the pedal. That's one answer, right? That's the bike industry's answer. So that's why they started doing toe clips. And then that's what led to the evolution of clipless pedals, because if you attach your foot to the pedal, then you don't have to worry about your foot coming off with this forward toe tipping thing going on. But I had an insight one day. I was on the trail and I was like, man, why don't I need stiff-soled shoes in the gym? Like, why can I go in the gym and I can lift literally barefoot and I can lift all this weight, but I get on my bike and my foot turns into this weak, unstable mess? And man, I just had like this fucking light bulb moment. Like a voice pops into my head and says, well, it's because the ground supports both ends of your arch. Like that was the thought that like got me going. I was like, oh yeah, like an arch is one of the strongest forms in nature. But if you
the arch of our foot,
well, the arch period, right? Any arch, the arch is a super strong, like a dome, right? Like an arched structure. It's one of the strongest forms in nature, but if you have both ends supported. If you destabilize one end of an arch, the whole thing falls apart, right? So that was like why you need stiff sole shoes, right? Because you've got the back end of your arch, your heel hanging in space, and so the arch collapses. And so again, well, let's just create a stiff soled shoe to support.
So wait, just real quick, so I understand this is why I can't believe you're the first person to do this, because the mountain biking community's answer was, okay, well, we know we can only, because of this pseudoscience, put the ball of the foot on the pedal.
Yes.
So to supplement for the fact that we don't want the arch breaking down because now the heel has no support, we're going to make mountain biking shoes that have a super stiff sole so that when James is pushing down the toe, his arch isn't disappearing because he's got the heel pushing down. They thought of all that instead of just make a bigger pedal.
Yeah. Well, again, because if you're coming up in the industry,
you're either the smartest guy I know or the luckiest. Because like, how were you the first person to think of this and patent it?
Well, if you look at any industry, a lot of big breakthroughs came from outsiders. Because if you come up in an industry, if you come up, in a field, you are told this is how things are. And so a lot of times you don't question that, right? And so if you are going to make it to the top of a field, it's not by challenging the status quo.
Right.
It's by reinforcing the status quo, right? Like we see this thing playing out with like Egyptology right now, right? Like the old Egyptologists don't want to, like, they've written the papers, like they've made their name on one way of looking at the history of Egypt. And now you've got these new discoveries coming out that's questioning that, and they are fighting it tooth and nail because they do not want this new information to become part of the narrative, because
it makes their books look stupid.
Exactly. And so same thing here, right? If you came up in the cycling industry and you're working for a cycling company, like you've gotten there because you've towed the company line and you have bought into what they're telling you. And so you look at a lot of stuff like, like the Wright brothers were bike mechanics, right? Like it's funny to them that Nassim Taleb guy, the guy that wrote Anti-Fragile.
Yeah.
He's got several books, and in one of them, he goes through and outlines like all of these discoveries that were made in different fields by outsiders.
Yeah.
Because they have a different perspective. And so that's what it was, is like, I came up as a track athlete, right? I didn't come up as a cycling athlete. And then I had a strength training background. And then I got into mountain biking when I was like 24. So like I had a different background and a different perspective than someone who's been like, coming up in cycling since they were a kid. And so that's what, it came to. There's another book where good ideas come from. And he talks about this thing called the adjacent possible, which is basically where like eventually you accrue enough knowledge and unique experiences that gives you a unique perspective on the world that only you can see. And then you're able to like peer over the edge and see like, what's that next possible thing that I can see that no one else can see. And that's basically what happened with me, is like my background and all the study I had done and all these things eventually brought me to this adjacent possible where I was able to peer over the edge and go like, oh, we've been fucking this up the whole time. Like we need a pedal that supports both ends of our arch.
So are you like a pariah in the mountain biking industry?
A little bit, yeah. I mean, I've been, like I said, when I say Tyler Durden, it's...
Is there like Bike James hater pages?
Oh, yeah.
Because of how dumb you are?
Dude, people fucking hate me, man. People hate me. And a lot of it's from the flat pedal thing, right? Like I was very vocal, like for a long time, and I probably still am the most vocal flat pedal advocate out there. And so I'm the only one online who is out there calling bullshit on clipless pedals in general. Even before I had the idea for the Catalyst pedal, right? I'd been this huge flat pedal advocate because I realized like, oh, we've been lied to about the advantages of clipless pedals, and you don't need them, right? You can be a great rider. Now, again, if we're talking about like at the top, where like, a lot of money's on the line for like 1%, right? You might be able to make an argument for where clipless pedals could have a place there.
Yeah.
Right. But like, it's not this big thing. Again, that was another conversation I had that really made me start rethinking stuff. As I was talking with this guy, Jared Graves, who was like a big time mountain biker pro. And I was like, man, where's all the studies and stuff on like clipless pedals? And he's like, he's like, they don't exist. He's like, they don't, in fact, he was from Australia. He's like at the Australia Institute of Sport, like the record for the highest power output ever recorded was a guy on flat pedals. I'm like, what the fuck, right? Like, why don't we hear about this?
But Bike James
knows.
But Bike James isn't sponsoring
right
the riders and paying them $100,000 a year to advertise their clipless pedals.
Totally.
So there's another problem.
There's another problem, right?
And it's funny. I want to bring this story in because you and I have talked about this off air. Of like, you get these people that want to buy the toys because they've got more money than sense. They want to buy the toys that they think are making them 1/10% better. And you look at them and you're like, dude, you need to lose 30 pounds.
You're just not good enough.
You're just not good enough. Or you need to lose 30 pounds. You're talking about trying to pick up, grams on your equipment when you're carrying around a 30-pound Homer Simpson belly. Take care of your fitness, which is why you started MTB strength training. Take care of your fitness first. That's going to get you the biggest jump over buying the new handlebar that's 18 grams lighter or whatever.
Yeah. No, totally, man. That's it. And people, the other thing they'll do is they want to use equipment as a status symbol. So that's another problem, right? With this whole like serious mountain bikers ride clipless pedals, like that's a status symbol. And so you roll up on the trail and you've got on a pair of Catalyst pedals. Like we literally had a guy, because we do a 60-day money back guarantee. Like we're the only product in the entire cycling industry that actually has a money back guarantee. We get very low rates of returns, because once people try these things, they're like, oh shit, like this is the way to do it. If anything, they start ordering more for their other bikes. We had a guy return a pair, and he told us it's because his riding buddies were making fun of him so badly that he just couldn't take it anymore.
So he knew there was a benefit, probably felt better, probably lower chance of knee injury because you're not clipped in, making your leg move in weird ways, because you can just kind of self-adjust when you're riding on these. And he's like, I'd rather give all that up because my friends are mocking me so badly.
Totally.
Oh, man.
Totally. Yeah.
So I want to shift to the business side of it, because a lot of people have a lot of great ideas.
Yeah.
But they don't take it to mold, prototype, trademark, physical product, get the website up. Can you think back to those early days of like, okay, I got this idea, honey, we're going to spend a lot of money to get prototypes and figure out shipping in China, which I hear is no joke, or Taiwan, or wherever you're getting these made. We're gonna start a brand. We're gonna get incorporated. I got to learn how to build a website. I got to learn how to do e-commerce. That's not a small undertaking. And I wonder how many like $1 million ideas have died on the vine because people don't take that next step to start the business. So can you walk through how long was that process? How much did you spend? What did it look like? How the hell did you convince your wife? Because I know she's a pretty practical person.
Yeah.
By the way, James' wife, also a black belt in jiu-jitsu, also beats my ass every. I can conceptualize
both of us.
Yeah, I can conceptualize when a guy your size beats me, but when like a 140-pound girl just manhandles me, it's like it really messes with my ego. But that's just means I have more to go on the journey. So can you go back in time and talk about how long was the journey to actually make this thing a reality?
Yeah. So from idea to production model was probably about 18 months.
Okay.
Like having it where I could send out to people to buy, which is like really fast for sure. But there was a lot of, and I will say like, this is where like you spending your time accruing unique skills and building relationships with people pays off in unseen ways down the road. Because like if I'd had that idea without being Bike James first, it would have been a lot harder to do. So I was definitely able to leverage my experience, my list, my contacts and stuff like that for all that. So like, I like to say like I had the original idea, and then like the good Lord just kept putting people on my pathway to help facilitate this process. But
this is why people can become an overnight success, right? Because they for 10 years have been building an email list and doing physical training and giving out freebies and like just being a good human being. So it's like, 18 months to do the product, but it was probably 10 years of business experience and 30 years of physical knowledge that got you to be able to do it.
No, totally. Yeah. So I had the idea. At first I was very skeptical of it because I'm like, man, like, is it really going to make that big of a difference? Is like a longer pedal really going to matter? And so my first thing I did was found somebody to 3D print a plastic block that I could just stick an axle in and pedal around the parking lot. I was like, what's the lowest cost way to try this? And so, that was it. And so, but from the very first pedal stroke, I was like, oh shit, this is different. So I couldn't take the plastic.
Explain real quick why the pedal stroke is different.
So if you are on a normal pedal and you've got like a single pressure point, right? No matter where you put it, you're pushing down. You see if it's centered over the axle, the pedal doesn't move. But that's extremely uncomfortable. That creates a lot of problems. So most riders will shift the ball of the foot forward a little bit. And so once you do that, you start pushing down and it starts creating this forward toe tipping thing. And you don't have the back end of the arch supported. So if the back end of the arch isn't supported properly, then your plantar fascia and your Achilles tendon, your ankle starts getting stiff to try to help support that. It creates uneven, tension and pressure through the knees. You're not able to use your hips as effectively. That's like why in the gym you're told to like make sure you're driving through your heels, because that's what your hips, the where the hamstrings and glutes meet, that's your strongest, most powerful muscle in the body. So you want to make sure that thing's being recruited. And it's only going to be able to be optimally recruited if your heel is supported, if the back end of the arch is supported. And so it creates all sorts of like kinetic chain issues not having the back end of the arch supported. And so once you are able to support both ends, if you're standing on this and the arch, you're centered. And so both the back end and the front end of the arch are supported. Now when you press into the pedal, you can see there's no forward tipping, right? Like I can create pressure forward or backward if I need to, but like it's not happening from the pressure going in there.
Yeah.
And so, and the pedal body is supporting my whole foot. This aluminum body is stiffer than the stiffest carbon sole shoe out there, right? So even the stiffest carbon sole is going to have a little bit of flex to it. And so there's zero flex in this pedal body. And so you can be in these things in flip-flops. That was another aha moment when I jumped on these things in flip-flops and I jumped up and like sprinted in them. And I was like, dude, this is insane. Like my toes don't feel like they're in danger. I don't feel like my foot's going to fly off the pedal. I'm laying down massive power in flip-flops. And so, but yeah, so now every bit of pressure that's going into the pedal is going into the pedal stroke. You're not losing it through the arch flexing or even a little bit of flex in your stiff-soled shoe. And it feels like you're standing on the ground still.
Yeah.
So when you stand up, it's very comfortable. It's a totally different experience than standing up where you're balanced on the ball of your foot. And so standing up is much better. And then, like I said, it takes a lot of pressure off the rest of the kinetic chain. Like that's one of the biggest pieces of feedback that we get, besides like the performance benefits, is how people that have had pain related to cycling for years and have done everything, bike fits, everything they cannot get it to go away. We've had people that were literally ready to quit riding because they were just tired of dealing with the pain. They try our pedals and within a few rides, the pain's gone. Because, once
that whole kinetic chain is working together.
Once you support the foot properly, the rest of the kinetic chain can work properly. And so a lot of knee issues and low back issues and ankle issues that people suffer when they're riding bikes is simply because the kinetic chain is trying to compensate for the shitty foot support. And so once you support the foot properly, now the rest of the body can move the right way. And so it just, like your very first pedal stroke on these things, you're like, this is totally different. This is a completely different experience than what I'm used to. And so it was enough to get me thinking like, okay, there's something here, but a parking lot's one thing. I need to take them out on the trail. So I found somebody to make me an aluminum version of that plastic block, man. I call them the tanks, man. They were just these giant fucking things. And they were so ugly. But I was able to, it was, again, cheapest iteration to try it at the next level, right? I think that's probably, one lesson there is like, instead of like trying to like jump to the end, like what's the cheapest way I can test this idea? Does it work? Okay, well, what's the next cheapest way that I can test the next level? And so, because it may not be $1 million idea, right? And so if you throw all your chips in and it turns out to not be good, then you've kind of screwed yourself. And so by making these small bets, right? That's another term that gets thrown around in the business world. Like, make a bunch of small bets. One of them is going to pay off. A bunch of them are going to lose, but one of them will eventually pay off. And then that's where you want to like double down and start like feeding all your money into. And so I was just making small bets along the way, went out on my first trail ride on them and was like, dude, this is crazy. I was like literally climbing, a climb that I knew very well in like a higher gear than usual, even though these pedals weighed probably twice as much as like my normal pedals did. And, the sending felt great. Like I was like, dude, this is a totally different riding experience. It's not just a different pedal. Like this is a totally different experience on my bike. And so I had a buddy of mine who was like, dude, you can't show those things to anyone. They're ugly as hell. Like you're already going to be fighting people like not liking this idea. Like, don't go out there with the tanks. Like, so I went back to the same guy. And again, this is just one of these weird things, man. Like, he was like, man, I've been thinking about your pedal and I had this idea for a design. So we'll make one that looks like this and you tell me what you think. And I was like, okay, sounds good. And I come back, he's like, yeah, I'm ready for you to come back. And I come back and he had this design. Like people pay thousands and thousands of dollars for people to design a product. And I had this dude just fucking do it for me. He had this idea for the design. And so I had like basically a rough, raw aluminum version of this. And he had one of them. And he's like, I've quit my job here, so I can't finish the other one. But here you go. He goes, if these things work out and you produce them, just give me a pair, right? Like that's all I want. I was like, dude, all right, brother, like holy crap. And so
because to get somebody to like 3D design this and then mill it, I mean, you could spend $10,000 just getting the prototype.
Yeah. So again, the guy knew me through MTV Strength Training Systems, like, so there was like some goodwill like built up through that.
Does he have like a lifetime free membership to MTV Strength Training membership?
Yeah, man, whatever he wants, man, right? He's my boy. So, but yeah, so he only handed me one of them and he's like, so I had to go find someone else. and be like, you know, found some like old dude doing fucking, you know, CNC machining out of this freaking, you know, warehouse or whatever. And I was like, dude, I need you to make me another one of these. And, you know, gave him the specs for the internals. Cause what I would do is I would rip my other pedals apart and take the internals out of that, the bearings and the axle and all that stuff, and then put them in my prototypes. And so, you know, I'm really like assembling these things out in the garage at night. And so, so I got a good looking prototype, and then that's when I started going out and sharing them with people, and people were interested. So I had a few more prototypes made up. And so I started getting them out to like different people to get feedback, and like everyone was giving me the same feedback. They're like, dude, these things are fucking amazing. Like I had one dude who literally refused to give me the prototypes back. He's like, I cannot go back to riding my old pedals after trying these things. How much do you want for them? I'm like, dude, these things are expensive, man. Like these prototypes, like these one-off prototypes, you know, they're not like cheap. He's like, give me a number. I'm like, $400. He's like, sold. And freaking gave me $400 cash. To like,
so your very first sale was like your second or third pair of prototypes.
Yeah. For $400, man. And I was like, dude, this is
You're like, I'm on to something.
Like if somebody's willing to they refuse to give me the prototypes back because they don't want to go back, I'm like, I'm on to something here. So, you know, so I spent a few more months, like just kind of like getting some feedback on them, getting some ideas for pen placement and things like that. And so, and then I forget exactly how I got introduced to him, but I knew a rider who was sponsored by VP Pedals, and VP is one of the largest third-party manufacturers of bike parts in the world. And so he knew their American like contact, their American representative, and that guy knew me from, I used to write for it's called pinkbike.com. It's the largest mountain biking website in the world. And so I did a monthly training article for them for like a year and a half. And so this guy knew me as Bike James. You know, I had like a reputation in the industry as a crazy flat pedal guy, but he had used some of my workout tips on Pink Bike, and he was like, dude, they really help with like some back pain and stuff like that. So he was like totally pumped to like help me out. And so he went to bat for me a ton with these guys. And yeah, so he helped me get set up, get the mold made. It's an extrusion mold. So it comes through like, you think like Play-Doh, right? When you run Play-Doh through a little like mold and it comes out, they come out like that. So it's not like a, you know, they don't like pour it in and it comes.
It's not like an injection mold.
No, it's not an injection mold.
Okay.
So it's a lot cheaper to do it that way. Cause then it just comes out and it has like the rough shape, and then they just CNC machine the rest of it. And so, yeah, so he, you know, worked with me to get my first production prototype made. And, man, I still remember I went to, back when they did Interbike, the big bike show that they'd have in Vegas every year, which is basically an excuse for a bunch of riders to get together and just party and get fucked up. And, but he was like, yeah, they're going to be at Interbike and they can give them to you there. And so I went to Interbike that year and I met them and got the production prototype, and it was shown to people, and they were like, dude, this thing's crazy.
So like, how much bigger than a normal pedal is this?
So when I first started, your normal flat pedal it's no wider than a normal flat pedal because you don't need width, right? It's not width that's the problem. You just need a pedal wide enough for your foot to stand on. It's the length that's the issue. And so your standard flat pedal was about 3 3/4 inches long. And so now, again, this is funny, the industry still, nobody will copy my design because that would be admitting that they were wrong this whole time.
And you have a trademark, right?
And I've got a trademark on that specific design. Well, I mean, a patent on it. And so,
a patent.
But so most flat pedals now that come out are at least 4 inches long, if not a little longer. Nobody's gone the full 5 inches of contact space that we have. And we've got an XL for people with like size 12, 13 plus feet. That's even bigger. And, so yeah, so it's probably about an inch to 3/4 of an inch longer than your standard flat pedal. And the problem is though, is when they go longer, they also go wider, which exposes more of the side of the pedal body to hitting rocks and stuff like that. And which is why I never rode like the oversized flats, because I was like, dude, I'd clip a freaking rock, where I was riding. It was like super technical terrain. So so you don't want wider, you want longer. So but yeah, man, it's funny. You don't think it'd make that big of a difference, right? But it's like boiling water, right? At like 211 degrees, it's still just hot water. 212 is boiling. So sometimes that 1 degree makes all the difference in the world. So you're thinking like, man, is like an inch to half an inch really going to make that big of a difference? Like, yes, it does. Like when you hit the sweet spot. When you get the length right, it totally changes the complete experience for your foot and how you're able to stand on the pedal, apply force, just the whole 9 yards. Like everything improves when you've got proper foot support.
So you got your prototype. How do you go to market? Like, there's already all these little great touch points where like the goodwill of Bike James, the goodwill of James, the human being, is like really putting the wheels in motion, right? So I think like a business tip for people that are watching this is like, be ready to like give a lot of goodwill. And then at some point you got to ask for the ask, right? You got to lean in for the business kiss and like get some of that goodwill back and leverage some of your relationships. How do you go to market and be like, all right, I know this works. We've got a cool prototype. Now I got to start selling them before I place an order, a $20,000 order. Are these made in Taiwan or?
Yeah, made in Taiwan.
Yeah. So it's like, you're going to be writing a check for $20,000, which you probably didn't have, to Taiwan. So like, how do you go to market and get proof of concept that you can actually sell these?
So that was where my Bike James email list came into play. And so again, that's like, we've talked about this, man. The power of a business is in their email list. Like that is number one. Like people get all infatuated with social media and stuff like that. But like, man, your email list is your most valuable asset. And how you treat that email list is like the second most valuable thing. Right. And so man, I had people always telling me like, dude, you give away too much stuff for free. Like you just give away way too much info for free. I'm like, man, I don't care. Right. Like I want to help people. And so like, I've literally had people over the years buy my program saying like, man, I don't really want the program. I just want to give something back to you. Like you've just given away so much stuff and I've benefited so much from it. Like I just want to find a way to support you. So I'm going to buy this program. And so I had just built a ton of goodwill with my list between just all the free information I gave away, all the research I was doing on flat pedals and all that stuff. So I think I had about like 12,000 people on my list at the time. And so I go to my email list and I'm like, I've got this idea for a pedal. Here's the idea, here's the logic behind it. Here's been my experience with it so far. I'm going to do a pre-sale on them to raise money to get my first order. And man, I hit send and I did not know what to expect. And we had like freaking 200 people like take me up on the offer. And so like we were doing them for $99 as a pre-sale. And, we got 200 people. So we raised like 20 some odd $1,000 within a few days. So I basically did like a Kickstarter campaign to my own email list.
And for people that don't know like the value of that email list, you got into Kickstarter or God forbid you got to go raise money for private equity or a family member, you're going to be paying either somewhere between 10 and 20% interest or 10 and 20% VIG to a site like Kickstarter.
Yep.
So it's like the power of all that goodwill and all that free $49 programs you gave away and helping people, that ended up being like your VIG for having your own Kickstarter.
Yeah. That's why like I've never had to take on an investor. I never had to take out like a loan to get this started because I was able to like raise the money for the initial order from my email list. And so and because I did work for Pink Bike, I knew the editor there. And so, he was a fan of mine. He was like a fan of flat pedals. At one point we were having a conversation. This is like the editor for the largest mountain biking website in the world. And we were talking about something and he was like, dude, look, we know clipless pedals are a problem. We know that they're oversold, but saying something is just going to piss people off and it's not going to do any good. I'm like, what the fuck are we doing here, man? So like, even like, these guys know that these things are being oversold, but they don't want to say anything because they don't want to piss off their advertisers. Right. But like secretly, he's like the supporter of mine. He's like, he's down with the flat pedal revolution. He's, a fan of Bike James. So he, he like let me get a press release announcing the release of the pedal on page 1 of Pink Bike, which is extremely hard to do, especially if you're not one of their top advertisers. And so that helped a ton. Of course, that's when the backlash started, man. The fucking backlash from the keyboard warriors and the industry experts, and everybody was like, this is a stupid idea. It's going to make you less athletic. It's going to make you flat footed. Like they just had like a bajillion reasons for why this was a dumb idea. And I'm like trying to like go on there and respond to all these comments about it. And like, finally I realized like, dude, there's nothing I can say that's going to convince these people. Like if they hate it, then they're just going to hate it. Right. And so, but again, I got my, got the order in, started sending them out to people. and just started getting flooded with emails from people just being like, holy shit, I've cleaned this climb that I've never made before. I made it through this technical section I've never made before. My knee pain went away after using them. Just so much feedback from riders who actually tried them that I was like, okay, like this is a thing. Like this thing's real. And, the other thing is I did at the time it was a 30-day money back guarantee, but we've bumped it up to 60. So I just want to my job is I just want to take away the risk, right? Like I want you to feel like you can try these things risk-free and, and if you don't like them, like one, I don't want to keep your money if it's not if you don't like them, right? I want you to love them. And so, I think that helped people as well. Just knowing like, okay, I can try this new wacky idea. And if it doesn't work for me, I can get my money back.
Right.
And so,
and comparatively speaking to other bike products, this is pretty inexpensive.
Dude, for like performance improvement to price, it is by far the biggest value that you can possibly invest on your bike.
Yeah.
I mean, by far. I mean, like forks are like $1,000, $1,500. Wheel sets are like $1,000 to $2,000. Like the other things that you can invest in on your bike that you'll actually notice a difference in on the trail are all like, 4+ figure investments.
Yeah.
And so, this is like $159 and you're going to every power, efficiency, your technical skills, your comfort, like everything across the board improves with it. So it's like by far the best value. And so like trying to communicate to people is also another part of my marketing strategy, is helping them understand that like, you could go on Amazon and buy a cheap pair of $20 plastic pedals, but you're not going to get the performance benefit from it. And so if you're wanting to actually see performance benefits, then you invest in this and you're going to see massive. It's totally worth every penny. It's worth more than what you're paying for it. So
I want to go back to the haters as a business lesson, because I feel like we're in a current political, business, societal time in history where it's like some people would tell you to lean into that and be antagonistic and be rude and fight back and whatnot. Other people would be like, hey man, I'll send you a pair and you can decide for yourself. Other people will be like, yeah, 50% of the market is going to hate me. 50% of the market is going to love me. And I know from experience, I used to take it because I have a business coaching platform that we've been doing for 10 years. When people used to drop out of coaching, I would take it really personally. Right?
Yeah.
Like I couldn't help but be mad at myself, be mad at them, be mad at my staff. What did we do wrong? What could we have done better? Why are they such a loser who's dropping out of coaching? Like I would be torn up for days when somebody like dropped out of coaching, because that's my little baby. And so when this is your little baby, you've put like time, energy, 20 years of like athletic experience into this. How did you choose to deal with the haters, and do you wish you would have done that any differently?
Man, it's so at the time I was very argumentative. Like I came up in the flame wars of the forums back in the late 90s, right? Like it was a fine art to like just flaming people, right? And so like I was very antagonistic at first, and but that was part of my brand. Like Bike James is this like rebel, anti-establishment, like in your face kind of guy. And so I definitely leaned into that a little bit when I first started with pedaling innovations, but eventually, age and just stuff starts maturity, and you're just like, okay, this is why am I arguing with some fucking kid in his parents' basement, on a keyboard. So the way that I look at it is like, one, your critics sometimes they've got a point, right? And so like just totally dismissing them isn't necessarily the right thing to do, because like they may have a point. Or there may be a lesson that you can learn. Like maybe there was something you fucked up with your coaching group that you could improve, right? I'm sure there were some lessons that you took
for sure
from it. So you don't want to just like ignore them and dismiss them, but you can't like also, take it personally, because, they've got their issues and there's things going on in their life that you don't know, right? And so what I finally arrived at was like, I'm going to respond, but I'm not trying to respond to them. I'm trying to respond so that the person looking at the exchange is being influenced, right? There's someone who's sitting on the fence and they're like, I don't know if I want to try these pedals, and they go and they check out a post on them, and they go down the comments and they see, people, saying, oh, this is stupid for this reason or that reason. Like my response is actually more written to that person who's reading that than necessarily the person who posted the comment. Because like
Right.
I know that I'm not gonna do it. Like actually, I learned this in the fitness world with like CrossFitters, right? Like you're never gonna convince a CrossFitter that CrossFit is bullshit. And again, I'm not saying it is or not, right? CrossFit's evolved a lot, but you definitely have a culty following around CrossFit. Like if you're a CrossFitter, there's nothing that someone can say that's going to convince you to not do CrossFit.
Right. We'll see the same thing in jiu-jitsu, right? Like once you fall in love with it, it doesn't matter what the criticism is.
So again, that was some advice I'd gotten from somebody in the fitness world is like, I'm not writing this response to try to convince them. I'm writing this for the person who's on the fence, who's reading this exchange, because I don't want to just leave the criticism there and not answer it. So I want to have a good response to it that maybe will help the person who's on the fence understand like why that's not a good criticism. So I think that's a good way to look at it is like, don't try to convince the person, the hater, to not hate you. Convince the person who's watching this exchange to not hate you. Like that's, the way that I start going about it.
Yeah. I have a bad tendency to also have a little too much snark in my life. So I can definitely be the one where if you were on the outside reading that, you'd be like, man, this guy Scott's kind of a jerk. Like, I don't know if I want to work with him because like I can immediately go to the flame war thing.
Yeah. No, there's definitely that. And there's a fine art of, slipping in a little intellectual insult in the way that you're wording things. Like, I'll still try and if I can make someone look stupid, then I'll try and do that. But if you come across, you're like, you're such an idiot. What do you got? Like a 3rd grade education, still living in your mom's basement. Here's all the reasons why. Like you're right. Like the person reading that is like maybe like influenced by how you're coming across there.
Right.
Like, oh, this guy's way too defensive. Like what's his thing? So, like I said, like coming at it that way where it's like, I'm trying to like, have the people who are watching this argument from the outside, I'm trying to influence them more than I'm trying to influence the person I'm arguing with.
Yeah, that's a good lesson, man. So I want to fast forward a little bit, right? Because like you get your initial proof of concept, you basically get like your $20,000 funding round. Now they're starting to sell. You've got your huge email list from MTB strength trainings, and you're doing some editorial articles, and you're probably in all the forums responding. Talk about where the business is today, how it's evolved. Of like, I think now, are you on Shopify or?
We got a Shopify site.
Okay.
So
how has the business evolved so you can get the product out there to the most people?
That's an interesting question because it's an interesting time in the bike industry right now. So like COVID was very, very good to the bike industry. The entire bike industry, myself included, benefited from, people being forced to find outdoor things to do. And so you would sell stuff without even having to try. But I'm looking at this from the outside and I'm like, dude, this is an artificial bubble. Like this is not how it's going to be going forward. So I'm not going to take on a bunch of debt to try to get a bunch more inventory and like grow to try and sell as many pedals as I can, because a lot of companies right now got caught with their pants down. Like the demand dropped off because now people can go back to like, their indoor stuff. And so the demand's gone down, but they're stuck with this structure and, inventory and all this.
More expensive house, more expensive truck, a warehouse full of material.
On like a big office and hired staff. And like, they've got like, a bunch of inventory that now that they're having trouble going through. And so the entire bike industry is down. And so we've definitely seen that happen. And so that's where like I've really had to like, double down on the core skills of, marketing and, building my email list and really kind of going back to like those fundamental things. And so like, just like, a couple of weeks ago, I completely rewrote my, my sales page for the pedal. And I, just, redid it. And it's like, now we're seeing better response from that. And so it's just, so now I'm like having to actually like work harder at the sales and marketing side than I was. But it's still just a matter of, you got to get eyeballs to your site, and whether that's like through organic traffic or you're doing paid ads or you're like, going into forums, like whatever you're doing to like get people to realize, oh, this thing exists. And then they go and they check it out. And then it's your job to convince them that like, this is a great thing for you to part with your hard-earned money to invest in. And then that's where like, a lot of the sales and marketing stuff comes in. And I think a lot of times, something I struggle with, like I'm a very logical person, right? Like I want to know the logical reason behind stuff.
Yeah.
And so like I would originally that's how I would approach selling the pedal, was on like the science and the logic and the rationale behind it. And as I study more and I got better at this, I really started to lean more into like, man, you got to take people on an emotional journey.
Yeah.
Right. There's got to be an emotional appeal to what you're doing. You need to look at this from like their perspective. Like they're the ones sitting there reading this. Like what's the conversation going on in their mind? And then how do I like, enter that conversation? Like if they're thinking something and you're like saying it better than they say it themselves in your sales letter, they're like, man, this person he really knows me. He really knows what I'm going through. Like he must understand, what I'm, how to help me out. And so like pivoting more towards that storytelling, like I said, like now on my sales letter, like I go through the story behind how I invented. There's a whole like hero arc and, the underdog tone to it. And, a lot of like really trying to like, the benefits need to be framed in a way of like, what's in it for them, right? Like it's not more power. It's climbing the same hill in a higher gear, right? It's not better stability. It's like being able to charge through a rock garden that you've never gone through before and made it all the way and like, doing it the first time, right? It's not like less pain. It's being able to finish a ride and getting off the bike and not hobbling around and feeling like you can jump on the bike and do it again the next day instead of having to like recover for a few days because you're hurting so bad.
Yeah.
So like, that's how you communicate to people effectively to sell your product, is like what's in it for them, and frame it in like the emotional framework of what they're looking for, rather than like trying to convince them logically why what you have is the best thing for them to invest in.
Dude, this reminds me so much, and I'm going to date myself here. This reminds me so much of the first Tony Robbins like sales mastery training I went through that I think were on CD-ROMs. They weren't even on CDs that you could like play in your car.
Right.
And his whole thing is people buy on emotion and then they justify with logic.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
And then the other thing you said there that I know he said in that training is that if you can articulate the problem better than they can, they'll just assume you have the answer.
Yes. Yeah.
So if you can talk about their pain and you can talk about like, man, do you really want to go to the bar after your 4-hour ride with the guys and be hobbling to the bathroom? Like that's a real thing that I know cyclists deal with.
Yeah.
They don't care about, well, look at this graph study of the plot points of the power distribution. Like they'll justify to their wife, like, oh yeah, I bought these $200 pedals because, I'm going to get more power and blah, blah, blah. But what they're really thinking and emotionally connected to is like, I'm sick of looking like a moron hobbling to the bathroom when I'm sitting in the bar with the guys.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's totally it, man. That's the thing, man. There's this thing that I've heard, like methods are many, principles are few. Methods may change, but principles never do. Like that's the thing. Like the principles behind what works, right? Like the things that work in sales and marketing, they've worked since the dawn of time, right? It's in that emotional appeal, telling stories, like all those things. So now the methods change. Right. Like now we're able to use the internet and, TikTok or Instagram or whatever that is. Right. Like the method itself changes, but the principles behind what works never do. And so, but people get like caught up in like, the tactics instead of their strategy. Right. It's like, what's your strategy? Tactics should be related to your overall strategy. And people just get like, my tactic is to like, I got to post on Instagram every day. Okay, that's a good tactic, but like, what's the strategy behind that tactic? Like, are you trying to like, what story are you trying to tell? How are you trying to connect with people emotionally through these things? So, again, you see this with, I'm a fitness guy. Like that's the thing is like, I'm always going to look at things from a fitness perspective. And so, you see a lot of people online and they're just like posting, workout demos. And it's like, okay, that's great. But like what people want to hear is like, how is this going to help them, right? Like, what's the story behind why you are doing it this way? What's the story behind like how this helped a client or something like that? So like mixing those things in, along with some of the more technical stuff, because you do want to like show people you're an expert, right? But man, we both know people who are like technically idiots, but they're extremely successful because they are so good at that emotional appeal and storytelling and like connecting with people that's really what matters. And so you can be mad all day long being like, my product is better than their product. But man, if they're better at telling a story and they're better at connecting with your guys' audience than you are, like they're always going to win. And you can either get pissed at them and you can be mad and rage at reality, or you can like lean into it and be like, okay, like what are they doing that I'm not, right? So it's like, you know, there's like, you know, in the fitness thing, like people can get mad at McDonald's, right? Like, oh, they're so unhealthy and stuff like that. But like, dude, McDonald's is really successful. Like, what's McDonald's doing that's making them successful? And are there some lessons that I can take from what they're doing and apply it to my own business? Yeah. So, you know, that's the thing, man, is just understanding like what are the principles behind sales and marketing. And, you know, again, that's the other thing is like knowing what business are you really in, right? So like if you think like, oh, I'm in the business of selling pedals, like, no, that's not my business. My business is trying to like emotionally connect with people to, you know, let them know like why this is going to change their life. Like that's what business I'm in. I'm in the business of changing people's lives. I'm in the business of like writing transformation. And so like I need to be able to communicate that, not, oh, I've got a great pedal. So like what business are you really in? And again, I think it's where a lot of entrepreneurs fuck up because like they think they know what business they're in, but that's not the business they're actually in. Right. Yeah. Like I was talking with our buddy Mark, the dentist guy. And, you know, every time I talk to him, he's talking about, you know, dealing with staff and stuff like that. And I was like, yeah, dude, like you think you're in the dental business. You're not. You're in like the people management business. You're in like the staffing business. Like that's what business you're in, is like being able to attract and manage good talent. Like that's what makes your office run well.
Yeah.
You know, you can be the best dentist in the world, but if you're not good at that, then you're always going to struggle.
I'll tell you, I also shout out to Modern Dentistry in Vegas. I also go to Mark. He's also my dentist. And like, I'm sure he's a good dentist. I have no clue. I know his office staff is awesome.
Yeah.
They make me feel good. The check-in is digital. I didn't have to fill out, 5 forms of my medical history in duplicate. It was one time on the internet and now they have it every time. It's like, they just make it easy to go get a horrendous process, which is dental surgery or getting your teeth cleaned or getting a filling. They make that process so easy because his staff is so good. It's like, it's not surprising to me that they're wildly successful. And I have no idea if Mark does better fillings than the next guy, but I like the people. I like the office. We're in relationship. They're personable enough to like make kind of funny jokes that resonate with me, but don't make it feel unprofessional. It's like, whatever he's doing with staffing, I got to have him in to talk about how he found his staff because they're world class.
Yeah. No, but that's, again, just going back to that, like that's, I don't know if he quite like consciously realizes that's the actual business he's in or not, but like that's the business he's in.
Yeah.
Is like, recruiting and managing talent. And so, but yeah, like what business are you actually in, right? Like if you are, you have a window cleaning business, it's like, I'm in the window cleaning business. Like, no, dude, you're in the business of like, helping people feel more like they want to feel good about their house. Like, there's some emotional reason behind what they're doing. And you're probably in the staffing and talent business. And so, that's the thing. That's like the E-myth, again, like a super old school thing. It's the entrepreneur myth. And it's like, well, you get these technicians who are really good at what they do. So they think I'll start a business doing this. And this is why most businesses fail, because they never make the transition from being a technician and doing the thing that they do into like actually running a business and working on the things that go behind making a successful business. So like once you start a business, like you're no longer the technical thing that you do. Like you are now, man, you got a bunch of hats that you got to wear.
Yeah.
And so it's like
the market will tell you if that technical skill you have is worth money.
Right.
But you don't make the money until you do all the other pieces.
You want to scale it. Like scaling it is where all those other pieces come in. And so again, and that's where like a lot of people struggle. And the reason why a lot of businesses fail is because they don't embrace that aspect of it.
Yeah.
And, and I've done that myself, right? Like I really for a long time, like fought against, sales and marketing stuff because, I had all these things, these mental blocks about it. And finally I was like, man, like, that's what business I'm in. I've got to embrace it. Like this is a skill that I need to develop And then the cool thing is like once you develop this skill in one area, then you can apply that skill in different areas. So like, my wife is starting, a fitness business for women over 40. So it's like now I can take these things and help her write better sales copy, help her understand better how to appeal to people emotionally. So it's
because the market she's trying to go after, like the women over 40, they don't care whether they're doing deadlifts or squats or whatever. They just want to get stronger so that they don't get osteoporosis, right? Or they look better later into life.
Yeah.
Or whatever the story they're telling themselves is, they could care less whether she works with bands or weights or body weight or whatever. Like she's the technical expert, but to get the client, she's got to tell the story that resonates with that woman.
Right. It's like, sell the sizzle, not the steak.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Like that's what you got to understand and you have to embrace if you want to be successful in any business is that aspect there. But, that's another thing. Like you go to most websites, like obviously you want to take lessons from what most people are doing, but you also need to understand that most businesses aren't successful and they're not profitable. So like trying to copy everything that they do. So like you go to an average e-commerce site and it's very like product heavy, right? You go to my site and it's a fucking sales letter. And I have any marketers that I deal with are always like, dude, you got way too many words on this page. Like this is way too much reading. This is way too long. And again, man, people that make a bajillion dollars in sales and marketing, like they know they can't be too long. It can only be too boring. Right. So like, don't be afraid to tell stories and to have words on your page. Right. Like yes, people have a short attention span, but people will also sit down and binge watch a Netflix series for 8 hours. Right. So which is it, right? Do we have short attention spans or are you just boring them to death? So they're like flipping on to the next thing. Right. And so if you're telling a compelling story and you're connecting with them, like they'll read the whole fucking sales letter.
Yeah.
Or at least to the point where they're like, I'm convinced, and they hit the buy now button, right?
That's such a good lesson because, I mean, you do your entire business from your laptop in your garage or your living room or whatever. You sell a physical product that I would think has no emotional connection because it's just a piece of, what is this, aluminum?
Yeah.
Yep. It's just a piece of aluminum, right? It's just a piece of aluminum.
Yeah.
I would have thought with you coming in here, it's like, oh, it's all about the technical specs and the ROI and the click-through rate and all that stuff. But it's like, you're building a business like one story, one relationship at a time, which I think is just a great lesson for anybody that wants to open a business, especially if they're selling a physical product. Because I wouldn't have thought of that with you walking in here.
Yeah, no, man. And that will help you differentiate yourself from the market. So if you're in an e-commerce space and everyone else is just like got the standard, Shopify website that's just a bunch of products with like, buzzwords and stuff on it. Like, and then you come in and you've got something different, right? It's like the Seth Godin book, Purple Cow.
Yeah,
right?
Great book.
Yeah. So it's like, if you're driving along and you're looking at a bunch of cows, all of a sudden a purple cow's there. You're like, whoa, what's that, right? So it's like your ability to be a purple cow, to do something different will help you stand out. People will be like, whoa, what's going on there? And then if you are good at telling a story and connecting with people emotionally, then like you're going to be able to like get a place in people's hearts that like your competitors don't, because they're not trying to. Like they're not trying to, develop a relationship or make these people feel like, man, this person really understands me. They're just like, oh, save 10% on our cool product. It's just like everybody else's product.
Right.
And it's like, man, that's one way to do it, right? But that's an extremely expensive way to go. Like that's something I realized.
It's just a race to the bottom.
Right. Well, I mean, that's like, again, like why I don't sponsor riders, why I don't buy a bunch of advertising, right? Because there's in the mountain biking world, a lot of what, you've got two pairs of pedals. How do you convince a rider that this pedal is better than this pedal? Well, you try and convince them that like, this is cooler. Like, look at the pro riders that use this thing. Look at the cool, like fancy website that we've got. Like, so you want to develop, and some companies have done very well for themselves developing like, like we talk about like Level Black, right?
Right.
In jiu-jitsu. And it's like, they're a cool, hot brand, right? They've done a very good job of creating that mystique around their brand. But man, that is not sustainable. Like the next cool, hot brand is going to come along.
Right.
And if you don't do a job of establishing some sort of like differentiating factor and telling stories and like connecting with people, then they're just going to move on, right? Like, and that's one of the things that Origin does really well. Like Origin, tells a story behind their
Right.
product, right? They've got some of the most expensive jiu-jitsu gear that you can buy, but man, like, man, they found these old, weaving looms in a old barn that they had to like go get. And like, like there's a story, like they tell the story behind their business and like why they're doing it that way and stuff like that. And so like, you feel this like connection with Origin that like, I don't feel with, like Show Your Roll. Right. Like, yeah, they
Dude, Origin, I've bought 2 for me, 2 for my son. So 4 pairs of $400 boots from Origin, leather boots.
Yeah.
I wear flip-flops 99% of the time.
yeah.
And so like I have 2 beautiful pairs of $400 boots because like I connected with their brand. I wanted to support them. I'm like, oh, when I go out on a date, I'll wear some fancy, good looking boots that are really made to be work boots. Now, my son, on the other hand, he works in a seafood warehouse. So he actually gets the use out of those boots. But yeah, they've connected with me on like an emotional, made in America, down home, the way things used to be, high quality, and like I'll spend the money for that.
Yep. Yeah. So like Origin set themselves up for a sustained level of success that like Level Black hasn't.
Yeah.
Right. And so, and that's why like you see these companies come and go, like we were talking about, like, dude, if Level Black was smart, they'd sell right now because it's going to fall off at some point unless they change how they're approaching their marketing and what they're doing. Like it's going to change.
Yeah.
And so there's going to come some other cool hot brand. And so that's why, again, like you want to be real careful about trying to position yourself as like the cool hot brand because yeah, you may make it right, but you got a lot of competition in that space and it's something else is going to come along eventually.
Yeah. Yeah. It's almost like if I could sum it all up, the podcast, like you don't want to be the sexiest or the cheapest, but if you have the deepest relationship with your clients, you're just going to win.
Yeah, totally, man. Yeah.
Yeah.
And all that other stuff, like you're saying, like, yeah, I got to, pay attention to click-through rate and like, all those technical numbers and stuff. Like, yeah, they matter, but to me, like they should be a downstream, like their success should be downstream of like doing this thing well, which is like telling a great story and connecting with people on an emotional level. And if you're doing that well, then like these other things will reflect that. And so those are like the indicator of like, are you doing a good job of that or not? And if those aren't where they need to be, then you're probably not doing that.
Yeah. Dude, that's the way to end the podcast, man. Thanks for being on, James.
Yeah.
We're gonna have you on again soon. I could do a whole nother episode just digging into MTB strength training and the way that you've built that list and the way that you're helping people achieve their physical goals. So we'll have you on in a few episodes to talk about that.
Yeah, for sure, man. That would be great. Appreciate it.
Thanks for coming in on a Sunday morning.
Yeah, my pleasure, man. I'm glad we both remembered eventually.
Talk soon.
Okay.
Hey, it's Scott Groves with the Henderson HQ podcast. I hope you got something out of that episode. If you enjoyed it, please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to the podcast. It really helps the show grow. And by the way, if you are a business owner or you know a business owner who has an interesting product, service, or just an interesting backstory, please get in touch with us. Email us at thehendersonhq@gmail.com. We would love to interview you because that's what this show is all about. It's about building community, supporting local, individually owned businesses, and just making Henderson a great place to live. And don't forget, go to hendersonhq.com and make sure you sign up for our newsletter. We send out a once-a-week newsletter, no spam, about the most interesting local businesses, hotspots, restaurants, community events. Thanks for watching the show. Really appreciate you.